Deanna Hope is the youngest of the group, and I would say she is one of the bravest and most vulnerable. The things that she has shared with us are inspiring. It's also extremely relatable for me. I don't know how many times on our one-on-one calls I would say, oh, I get that. Yeah, I totally relate to that. Yes, I understand that. She also had a couple different stories in one, which a lot of the storytellers have. And that's where I come in, is that I'm able to help the storytellers realize, okay, you have this story, or this story, or this story, and you have to choose which one to tell, and then let's bring it all together. And I am so excited for you to hear how she brought hers all together. So, without any more babbling, I would like to welcome Deanna Hope with Motherhood, My Way.
In January, when I casted the vision of standing here today, I would close my eyes and I would picture myself on stage wearing this beautiful red sundress, glowing, with a 6-month baby belly. I thought, how wonderful would it be to be standing here talking about motherhood on the Mothertelling stage, pregnant with my second child. Something that for a long time I wasn't even sure I wanted. But before I tell you how I got here, not pregnant, let me take you back to the very beginning when I first became a mom. My husband and I got pregnant just 3 months after we got married. It came as a pleasant surprise at how quickly it happened. During my first trimester, I went to a women's retreat, and on the first night they asked us to write down something we wanted to release. I immediately scribbled down my deepest fear about motherhood, that I wouldn't be a fun mom. You know, the kind of mom who plays and laughs and just loves being around children. That just wasn't me. I have never been someone who naturally gravitates towards kids. When my husband and I first started dating, he once asked me, "What did you like to do as a kid, Deanna?" I said, "Eavesdropping." I was the one lingering in corners, trying to soak up every adult conversation, wanting to be part of the grown-up world. So now, pregnant at 31, how was I suddenly supposed to become playful? How was I supposed to enjoy being around kids? How was I going to be a fun mom? But this fear was softened by something I knew deeply. We were having a girl, a sweet, delicate girl who would brush my hair, and we'd host tea parties, and we'd do crafts on rainy afternoons. This was an idea of fun I could get on board with. We had even picked out her name years ago, Juliet Jean, named after both our grandmothers, with the sweetest little nickname, JJ. Medically, my pregnancy was progressing as expected, but I felt worn down. I was too tired to work out, and my career slowed, and my new coaching business and podcast sat on the back burner. One warm spring evening, my husband and I, we were out for a walk. The sun painted the sky in streaks of pink and orange, and it should have felt magical. But all I could think about and talk about was how impossibly heavy my legs felt. As we climbed the small hill back to our house, I turned to my husband and I said, "I am never doing this again." And I meant it. This became my mantra. Every time I sat at work too tired to function, or I lay in bed at 2 a.m. with restless legs, I would repeat, "Never again." On the day of the gender reveal ultrasound, I was a mix of excitement and nerves, but I knew we were having a girl. My husband gently reminded me that it could just as easily be a boy, but I brushed him off. As I lay on the cold exam table, belly exposed, we eagerly asked the tech, "Can you tell us the gender?" She hesitated. "I'm not really supposed to." We said, "Are you sure you can't tell us?" She said, "Well, if I could, and if it was a girl, there'd be 2 lines right here." My husband squinted at the screen. "There are no 2 lines," he said. She nodded. And just like that, what I thought was going to be the happiest moment of my life became what felt like the most disappointing. I was in shock. Not only had these past few months been the hardest mentally, physically, emotionally, it was all for a boy? The tears started flowing before I even reached the car. Meanwhile, my husband was absolutely oblivious to my heartbreak because he's on cloud freaking 9 that we're having a son. Then, on a sweltering August afternoon, just 2 months before our son was due, I sat in my office when my director came in and sat down, and I told him, I can't work anymore. There's too much to do, I can't move fast enough, and I can't calm my heart rate down. I knew that this couldn't be good for me or the baby. For the first time, it felt like I was finally listening to my body. I slowed down. And during those final 2 months, I spent the afternoons reading, going for gentle walks, and nesting as I prepared our nursery. As I folded the tiny clothes gifted to us, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had fully accepted that we were having a son, and I felt so grateful for a healthy pregnancy. Finally, our son, Eddie, arrived. He was perfect. He even laid on my chest, and he started nursing right away. My husband and I shared that perfect moment's kiss. Over the course of my maternity leave, I learned how to be a mom. I stumbled through all the bewildering first, figuring out feedings, nap schedules, and how to decode his cries. But as Eddie grew older, naps grew shorter. I struggled with the long days when it was just him and I at home. I didn't like just sitting on the floor playing. So I often let Eddie play independently while I tried to read a book or bake muffins, half present in both worlds, just counting down the hours till bedtime. At the beginning of 2024, it felt like I was getting my life back. I was back to work full-time, and I had a growing coaching business and podcast. Meanwhile, my mom starts hinting, the best age gap is 2 years. Won't you have another baby this year? I could hardly imagine it. If I didn't enjoy sitting on the floor playing with my current toddler, why would I have another? Then one Sunday morning, my husband and I were sitting on the couch, sipping our coffee, Eddie sitting playing at our feet, chattering away to himself, when my husband turns to me and goes, he could really use a buddy. I laughed softly, but the question lingered. Then, a few weeks later, it was Halloween night. I took Eddie out trick-or-treating, just the two of us. I got him into his fuzzy little Cookie Monster costume as we went and visited our closest friends and family. He was only 2, and I knew he probably wouldn't remember it, but I would. I would remember the huge smile on his face, the way his little voice said trick or treat, and just how proud I felt watching him experience the world. I realized then that I was a fun mom. Maybe not in the loudest or messiest way, but in a way that matters. In a way that brought laughter, joy, and love to the sweet moments that make up a life. As the year came to a close, on Christmas Day, I found out I was pregnant, and we celebrated. In January, when I went for my 8-week ultrasound, excited to hear my baby's heartbeat for the first time, the exact same ultrasound tech from 3 years ago turned to me and said, I can't show or tell you anything, except if it was a healthy pregnancy, I could. I knew then this was the most disappointing news of my life. I had just spent 3 months in therapy trying to get to a place where I actually wanted a second baby, and now it was gone. People told me, you can try again right away. But I chose to pause, to heal, and to ask myself, why do I, Deanna, want another baby? Not why my husband thinks it's a good idea, not why my mom thinks it's a good idea, and not what Eddie might gain. But why do I? On an afternoon in March, I pulled out my journal and I wrote, this is what I love about being a mom. I love being the first person to see Eddie in the morning. My husband is not a morning person, and so every morning I get to walk into his room, pick him up, and say, good morning, I love you. And now he even says, I love you back. I love being the giver of snacks. And oh boy, does Eddie love 100 snacks a day. But I don't mind. I love preparing cut up fruit, crackers, cheese, muffins, or even a waffle if we're feeling fancy. I love being the one he turns to when he's sick. Over the past year, we've made more trips to the emergency room than I can count. With 3 bouts of pneumonia and every bug a 2-year-old can get, I was the one there, holding him as we waited to see a doctor. No, I may not be the mom who wants to sit on the floor for hours, building block towers, making slime, or Pinteresting every activity. I will probably never be a stay-at-home mom, but I do love being a mom. And I can want another baby, even if my version of motherhood doesn't fit the mold. Because what I've learned is this: there is no perfect way to be a mother.